Hello everybody and welcome to the first edition of LM's Investopedia, our program on discussing and enlightening our clients, our audience with new concepts in finance. I'm sure that investors, all the investors who are referring to annual reports and technical literature relating to companies have come across the term ESG on a very frequent basis. This is relatively a new concept which has been introduced and incorporated in the company annual reports. What is this ESG? Essentially, the term ESG stands for environment, social, and governance. Businesses today are more proactive in terms of how they do the business. They not only concentrate on tangible elements but also on the intangible elements. So the focus is on having a more holistic view of businesses encompassing the entire social elements, the social economic impact, the impact on the environment, etc. With climate goals trying to be achieved, with goals of decarbonization, etc. There is a lot of stress on protecting the environment, on protecting water conservation, wastewater treatment, and several other concepts. Apart from this, there is also focus on biodiversity, on gender-related issues, gender diversity, etc. With me today is Bhavin Shah, who is a senior management personnel at Latin Manhalal Group, and he's going to explain to us his views, his observations on the ESG concept. So welcome Bhavin, and we'd like to have your views on the ESG concept. So,
right. Sure. Thank you, Nirav.
Yeah.
So welcome all. Hello everybody. So we have been discussing and on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I come across a lot of investments portfolios in terms of reviewing them and kind of guiding them onto allocations and stuff like that. So one interesting observation that most of you all would have come across, probably if you all are kind of very active investors in terms of doing the active management of your portfolios, maybe mutual funds or equity. So we just thought to kind of shoot a short video on this and try to communicate and probably share our the insights on this, that how it is coming up and how it can be looked at. So interestingly, with corporates, organizations, and of course with the government's boost and information highlights, it has been communicated very strongly. It seems like that because we have observed that many corporates and organizations have been conducting this activity and looking at this aspect, like Nirav mentioned about ESG, which is environmental socio governance. So not only giving importance or highlights to the financial angle, but also to the non-financial angle, which is purely the green environment, how we can make our environment and surroundings more and more healthier and cleaner. And so we have seen a lot of proactiveness and willingness, and of course it has been taken by the organization and corporates in a way to be considering more accountable and responsible for it. So they have been taking steps against this, and how it is rewarding. Of course, in post my this thing, Nirav will also share some more insight on it. And so to give you an example, if you talk about a sector, say real estate, for example, it has been made mandatory for all the real estate projects where the construction happens. Rainwater harvesting is a compulsory and a mandatory in the scope of work of the developer. So this itself communicates us what we are trying to say and highlight here. Also amongst the pharmaceutical industry, for example, any of the APIs or formulation ones, if you go to see, they have to undergo the water waste management and the effluent treatment. So basically what in a nutshell it says that during the whole manufacturing process, whatever water is released which of course through the process it's not going to be a very clean or safe to consume, but it has to undergo the water waste management system, and only then it can get released into the environment for back to the government's this thing. So we've one of the sector upcoming sector, probably we are at a very nascent stage in this, but I think it's picking up pretty well, and one can and should look at in overall portfolio allocation when it comes. Of course it all goes and depends on the case to case profiling and the risk appetite, but yeah, it certainly looks to be an interesting space, and also good prospects, because the way sectors and more organization and enterprises are trying to participate in this and looking at it, it looks to be interesting. One can always keep it on their top of the mind to always look at or check with your respective advisors or brokers, distributors, and always check on that whether it is really fitting in your portfolio, and look at it interestingly. I want also Nirav to share some more insights that how ultimately as the investors fraternity, how is it going to benefit us, and whether organizations or corporates, whoever is taking part in this willingly, how are they going to be benefited. And end of the day we want to have that, should I take the exposure into this, and whether it is going to be monetarily rewarding me as a part of my overall wealth creation journey. So of course Nirav will also share some insights on that. Thanks Nirav.
Yeah, thank you Bhavin. So the entire gist of what Bhavin has covered is that responsible corporate citizens. Responsible corporate citizens does not just mean being responsible towards the shareholders of the company, but it's a larger gamut of things. You are responsible to the shareholders of the company, you are responsible to the employees, you are responsible to the environment, you are responsible towards the climate goals, and we are seeing and referring to a lot of sustainability reports which are being prepared by companies. They're talking about decarbonization, they are talking about clean, being net carbon emission neutral, and a lot of focus being given on effluent treatment plants, wastewater treatment, how you are going to dispose of the toxic elements without harming the atmosphere, without harming the climate. Now the important aspect is how do the investors gain from this, or what are the opportunities for investors in this entire scheme of things. The first is relating to carbon credits. I'm sure this is a new concept, relatively new concept, but a lot of companies they work on the concept of the carbon credit emissions. What happens is, for every 1 ton of carbon dioxide which is saved from being emitted into the atmosphere, companies get eligible for 1 CER, that is the carbon emission reduction. And these carbon emission reductions are being traded on the international exchange. So all those projects which are doing some benefit to the environment by saving emissions into the atmosphere, by saving carbon dioxide from being emitted into the atmosphere, are eligible for CERs, that is the carbon credits, which can be monetized by them on international exchanges. So this is a very good opportunity for companies to not only contribute to the environment in a non-financial way, but also in a financial way. Second is, there are a lot of ESG funds which are being promoted at present. So investors generally tend to approach us and tell us what are the opportunities for this. So we guide them that this is the concept of the future. This is a futuristic concept, and one should definitely go ahead and try to invest in these ESG funds. Third point which I would like to point out, Bhavin, is that there are a lot of companies which are working in this space, which are in the listed space, and which could give us an opportunity for benefiting from this ESG journey. Just to quote today's market, I think we had a few stocks which are exciting and which have seen good movement in the trade. One is Ion Exchange, It's into wastewater treatment, it's into water recycling, and a lot of exciting opportunities which are cropping up. In the case of water, I would like to point out that there are some countries like Israel. Israel recycles about 85% of its water. It's an arid region. It's in the desert, but it's a miracle in the desert. There is a huge scarcity of water over there, but they have used futuristic technologies in order to recycle water. They recycled 85% of the water, whereas in the case of countries like the nearest competitor recycles barely about 20-25% of the water.
Okay.
So I think there's a huge opportunity for India in this space, which the companies need to exploit. So we have some companies like Ion Exchange, which is as I pointed out. Apart from this, we have companies like Vatek, Wabak, which are doing great work as far as water recycling, water conservation, water treatment chemicals. Same space we have the companies like Thermex, and of course another company which could easily fit into this space is Praj Industries. Praj Industries is also contributing to a healthy environment because of blending of ethanol. It's into the technology which provides the blending of ethanol with petrol. As you know, the blending targets have been increased now to 10%. So mandatorily you have to blend 10% ethanol with the petrol. So it serves multiple purposes. It not only saves our fuel bill, but it also contributes to a cleaner fuel. Yeah, and incidentally, I think a lot of companies which we have spoken to, they talk about the fact that if you want to qualify for the international grade orders, then it is necessary to adopt the international best practices. Amongst these international best practices, the first is that there should be zero defect in the manufacturing. So your technology has to be updated. Second, there should be zero accidents. That means a complete focus on the safety of the personnel who is working in the factory. And there should be the 100% commitment to the environment. That means effluent treatment plants should be there in place, wastewater treatment should be up to the mark, the gender diversity has to be perfect, and a complete commitment to the circular economy, what we call as the circular economy. This is one factor. If we talk to cement companies, they say that we want to gradually increase the share of power from the conventional power to green power. So cement companies are moving more towards waste heat recovery system and solar, a blend of solar and wind power. So a lot of interesting concepts are there,
Yes.
which can be covered under this topic. It's a very wide-ranging topic, but I think today's our edition has definitely given our audience some background or some insights of
Yes.
what the ESG is all about. We will definitely follow this up with much more editions, with much more content on our programs, which we will be holding regularly. And kindly do write to us, or kindly do mail us about your feedback on our program. And with this, I think we wrap up our first session of LM Investopedia. Thank you, Bhavin, for your contribution. Thank you, everybody, for a patient hearing. Thank you.